Well, it's pretty complicated. Firstly, Iran is a significant Islamic country, although its citizens are, strangely enough, very friendly and would like to be more friendly to the United States. So you're basically dealing with the control exerted by a combination of the mullahs, the ayatollahs, and the Revolutionary Guards, out of which the current president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, came.
Why was he elected then if there are so many peace-loving young people in Iran?
I think the real question is there really an electoral process in Iran, or was he appointed by the Council of the Governors, as they call them over there, who consist of the top 10 ayatollahs in the country? I think it's more the latter than anything else.
Well, how were the elections not monitored by any kind of international body?
I don't believe the elections were effectively monitored by an international body.
So you believe that most of the population would like to be peaceful and are not supportive of these kinds of extreme statements?
I think that the majority of Iranians, if you scratch them hard, would tell you that they would only be too happy about renewing their friendship with the United States. Not despite all of the jihadist language that emanates out of this terrorist president.
Now, there's also a lot of good Christian people that are sort of caught up in the divestment movement.
Yep.
I did go online and look at the organization that you're speaking of, and it looks like they are sincerely concerned about human rights abuses throughout the country, throughout the world, really, including the Philippines. So can you explain how that happens, that process where the divestment movement gathers a lot of storm through people, unsuspecting people, people that are just trying to do good?
It's primarily focused on Israel and the plight of the Palestinians only, to the exclusion of other Christian minorities, even in the Middle East. Let me give you an example of that. When we were down in Orlando, Florida, at the Evangelical Lutheran General Assembly, we made the acquaintance of a number of Lutheran pastors and bishops, particularly those who were engaged in outreach to the various Jewish communities across these United States. And we were pleasantly surprised to find several of those who were themselves advocates for the positions that we took. What we wisely did was we brought in a friend who, in fact, was a Lebanese Maronite Christian who lived in the Orlando area and is the Secretary General of a worldwide Lebanese Maronite group, to talk about the plight of both Maronite Christians in Lebanon, some of which we've heard of before, as well as groups like the Copts in Egypt, who are, at this very moment, under the equivalent of a jihad by the Muslim Brotherhood there. What that did was it educated a number of Jewish activists in particular about the importance of an alliance and spreading a message that says the Palestinians are not oppressed except by their own leadership. There are other Christians in the tens of millions in places like Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and all throughout the major Islamic countries, including Iran, who basically live in peril every day of the week. And that's the message we really wanted to get across to the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America's leadership and delegates.
Well, this is an ethnic cleansing process of intimidation and fear, and is driving tens of millions of Christians out of the lands and areas where they had lived for thousands of years. Is that not correct?
That's correct. The best living example of that are the Assyrian Christians in Iraq, who've gone through a horrific history of subjugation and slaughter, even under the British, when the British occupied it after the First World War, and are dwindling as we speak and fleeing to havens essentially in the West and predominantly here in the United States. And for those viewers of yours, you must realize that the Assyrian Christians are the keepers of something that we Jews pride ourselves of, and that's
Aramaic.
the Aramaic language.
The Chaldeans also.
That's correct.
In Turkey.
Right. So what the purveyors of the imagery of the Israelis as oppressors do not reflect on is that tens of millions of their Christian colleagues are essentially oppressed by Islamo-fascist dictators in countries all throughout that region.
There's an expression, first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people, but it sounds like they're going backwards. They're going for the Sunday people before the Saturday people.
That's correct.
Now, what kind of, this is happening right now in Egypt, and tell us a little bit about in Port-Prince, in different places.
Well, in the case of Alexandria last week, there were a series of riots around St. Michael's Church, which is a principal Coptic cathedral in that vicinity, in which dozens were injured, 8 people were killed, a Coptic nun was basically stabbed, and all because of a play that was put on over a year ago. The interesting part about it is the mobs, largely assembled by the Muslim Brotherhood, which is almost exclusively Islamist and jihadist, said, we protect the Dima, the contract that basically says that the Jews and the Christians are basically fourth-class citizens.
That's the dhimitude.
That's a dhimitude angle.
And a people that are tolerated
minority,
but not given the full civil rights.
Right. The interesting thing is if you took a look at the total population in Egypt, which is somewhere around 80 plus millions, there are something in the vicinity of between 15 and 20 million Copts. They're a significant minority in the country.
Yes, the Coptic Christians.
That's correct.
Some of the earliest Christians in the world.
Yes, the Gospel of St. Mark, I think, is basically one of the oldest of the Christian Gospels that emanates from that church.
So the nature of the Israeli army fighting terrorism is really something that has to do with a defense against the jihad.
That's correct.
Now, the Israelis are a good army, a strong army, and they usually win the war, and this is being translated as an oppression against the Palestinian people.
Well, it's worse than that. The IDF troopers, if you want to call them that, or soldiers, or citizen soldiers in Israel, are viewed as basically the equivalent of occupying Nazi soldiers from World War II. That's the imagery that these groups perpetrate in the world.
Well, it's a horrible rhetoric, and
correct.
That's what I was trying to bring out in the sermon about the word Zionism, Jew, and Israel have really become, have a pejorative twang to it from the media. We're going to have to wrap it up for now. I feel like this conversation has just begun.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Shalom.
Just to find you again. We got a tow missile that's custom fit just for you. You see, my Uncle Sam